Do you feel any sense of guilt at all that as a philologist, as a professor of English language, with which you were concerned with the factual sources of language, you devoted a large part of your life to a fictional thing?
No, actually it's done language a lot of good. No, there's quite a lot of linguistic wisdom in it. I don't feel any guilt complex about the Lord of the Rings, as many people have said. Now we know what you wasted the last 14 years upon. You can now get on and complete some of those professional tasks which you've neglected. And so immediately after I retired, I was more busy working at my proper things than I'd been for a long while. Yes.
Is the book to be considered as an allegory?
No. I just like allegory whenever I smell it.
Do you consider the world declining as the third age declines in your book? And do you see a fourth age for the world at the moment? Our world?
Well, the person of my age, you see, is exactly the kind of person who's lived through one of the most quickly changing periods of narrative history. And that the world is a totally different place now, at a speed. Everybody feels that. Anybody who lives over 70 begins to feel that all through history. You can see that they do. But surely there's never been in 70 years so much change.
Oh, surely never. No, one doesn't have to be 70 years old to appreciate this.
The world which I brought up as a small child was indefinitely closer to the world, say, of Shakespeare.
There's an autumnal quality throughout the whole of The Lord of the Rings. There's a sense of continuous change. Each character feels himself to be part of a story that's forever continuing. In one case, a character says the story is continuing, but I seem to have dropped out of it. Yeah. However, everything's declining and it's fading, at least towards the end of the Third Age. Every choice tends to the upsetting of some tradition. Now, this seems to me to be somewhat like Tennyson's "The old order changeth, yielding place to new, and God fulfills himself in many ways." Where is God in The Lord of the Rings?
He's mentioned once or twice.
Is he the one above the elder?
The one.
Despite the continuous war between evil, personified in Sauron, and good, you never personalize or personify goodness. Good is there, but it's totally abstract. You don't attempt to ascribe any godship to it, particularly. No,
this isn't a dualistic mythology it's based on, no, certainly not.
But, the whole book is nevertheless nothing but the battle between good and evil.
Well, that's, I suppose, an actual conscious reaction from a war, from the stuff that I was brought up in a war to end wars, that kind of stuff, which I didn't believe in at the time, and I believe in less now.
If I can take this a bit further, I may make my point clearer. In battle, Frodo and Sam call on Galadriel, or their native country. Gimli calls on his ancestors' axe, if I read your appendices correctly, and the men call only on their swords by name or on their kings or lords. I would expect them to call on their gods, and yet amid thousands of names, you don't name the deities of any of the races you've invented. Why? Have they no gods as such? I would have thought a story of this sort was almost dependent upon an intense belief in some theocratic division, some hierarchy.
It is indeed, but that's where the theocratic hierarchy comes in. The man of the 20th century must, of course, see that you must have, whether you believe them or not, you must have gods in a story of this kind. But he can't make himself believe in gods like Thor and Odin, Aphrodite, Zeus, and that kind of thing.
You can't believe that the men in your story would have called on Odin.
I couldn't possibly construct a mythology which had Olympus or Asgard in it, on the terms in which the people who worship those gods believed. God is supreme, the creator, outside, transcendent. But the place of the gods is taken, so well taken, I think that it really makes no difference to the ordinary reader. It's taken by the angelic spirits created by God, but created before the particular time sequence which we call the world, which is called in their language Ea, that which is, that which now exists. Those are the valor, the power. It's a construction, you see, in mythology in which a large part of the demiurgic thing has been handed over to powers which are created therein under the one. It's certainly like, but much more elaborate and more thought out than C.S. Lewis's business when he's out of the Silent Planet, where you have a demiurgos who's acting command of the planet Mars. And the idea there was that Lucifer was originally the one in command of the world, but he fell. So it was the Silent Planet. It had fallen out of that was the idea. Well, this is not the same with me.
Yes. So then you have, in your theocracy, you have an ultimate one,
Yeah.
whom you call...
It's called the one only.
The one only. And then the Valar, who are considered as living in Valinor.
This particular little group of them who were removed from other parts of the universe to this part because they became interested in it.
In the book, I get the impression you always see power as being physically in a high place. You have a high seat. There's Orthanc, Medusel, Barad-dûr, the towers of Minas Tirith, Morgul and Cirith Ungol. They are always high, physically up. Is power for you always, so to speak, at the top of a mountain or top of a
Well,
height?
that's just a symbol, isn't it? Oh, no, as a matter of fact, it's just a storytelling thing. You want towers and so on, but could have them down the dungeon or underneath. They are, matter of fact, Morgoth, the prime mover of evil, of whom Sauron was only a petty lieutenant, lives in a dungeon. It must be in a fortress or of some kind. Not that Valinor has any high towers, just of...
Well, that is almost without the world you describe, isn't it?
It's in the physical world, according to the myth.
Ah.
Until the downfall of Atlantis. I have an Atlantis complex, in addition to all these other things. And quite independent of that, a permanent dream that I had, let's say that the ineluctable wave has been one of my nightmares. Sometimes coming in over the open country. It always ends by one surrendering oneself. And one wakes up. But, it comes in all kinds of points. Whenever I used to doodle and draw, it's nearly always a lone figure with the vast oceanic wave coming in. So, of course, I had to write quite independently these Atlantis stories, in which I call Numenor, which means the land of the extreme western. Well, this is the fable, you see. Since the whole question of the human fall is left off the stage, naturally. It occurred, but they're not known. Since the regraced these people, they were given this great island, the first all west, not in the divine world, not in the immortal world, to live on. Then, of course, will always come a seemingly meaningless ban, like the fruit of the tree of evil. Lewis used the same thing in his Perilandum. Their ban was they mustn't sail west. They did.
Hence the ultimate downfall.
It then became an intellectual. People lived there only in memory. It lived in time, but not present time. And of course, Numenor was drowned, and the earthly paradise was moved, and so then you could then get sail to America. Told you the world became round. It always had been a vast globe, but people can now sail around, discovered it round. And that's was my solution of the thing. I also wanted to give the fall of Atlantis some universal application. The point is really, I've written some story about it, in which as they get to that, you suddenly see the view coverage of the world going down like a bridge. You're on a line which leads to what was. Of course, I don't know what your theory of time is, but what was, what is, if it ever had an existence, still has that same existence. But we can't go too deep into those things, but they really are sailing back to a world of memory.
In this world which you might have created, had you been given the power to do so, had you been one of the Valar, had you been, save the mark, God, would you have created a world which is so solidly feudal as the Lord of the Rings?
Oh, yes, very much so. Yes, I think the feudal... I mean, you mean feudal...
In the widest sense.
French sense, not in the strict way.
Oh, no, in the widest sense.
Hierarchical, rather, yes.
Hierarchical, exactly, yes.
Yes, I think so.
I mean, that power should descend by a line of kings to their sons. This sort of thing.
Yes. I don't know about that. No, it's a very potent story-making and emotive thing, but how far one say it has really worked better than the other system in looking at the history of the world, one doubts pretty much. It's never been worse, at any rate, than the struggle for power that always ensues when you haven't got some line of descent which can't be questioned.
You're wedded to the feudal system, in a sense. Not, I don't mean the medieval feudal system, but the idea of power descending through blood or through marriage. Or...
Yes, I'm rather wedded to those kind of loyalties because I think, contrary to most people, I think that touching your cap the squire may be damn bad for the squire, but it's damn good for you.
Do you find a continuing interest in The Lord of the Rings by people? Do people still write to you, despite the fact that the book's been out for 10 years?
Dozens of letters a week, yeah. Or have to keep a secret to answer them, yeah.
Were you surprised at its success?
Nobody been more staggered, yeah. Unless it was possibly Sir Stanley Irwin. I was up at Stanley Irwin's birthday celebration, and a bookseller came up to me. I don't usually greet him with such fervour, but he said that while he got copies, it sold so well it practically kept him going for a while. Well, he gets his guinea off the set, you see.
almost the last question. Do you, in fact, believe yourself, not in the context of this book, but believe in the sense of straightforward, strict belief, in the Eldar or in some form of governing
well,
spirit?
The Eldar must be distinguished from the Valar. The Eldar only...
the Valar, I mean, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Are you, in fact, a theist?
Oh, I'm a Roman Catholic. Devout Roman Catholic, yes, but I don't know about angelology. Yes, I should have thought almost certainly. Yes, certainly.
Well, they seem to me to be the saints, or the equivalent of the saints.
Well, they are in some ways, yes. Yeah. They take the place in this book of the things which in medieval and older legend you have the gods and the invocation of the saints, which are lesser angels. Yes, they do. Oh, well, of course, obviously many people have noticed that the beginning to the Lady, the Queen of the Stars, which is almost like Roman Catholic invocations of Our Lady.
Do you wish to be remembered chiefly by your writings on philology, on other matters, or by The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit?
I shouldn't have thought there's very much choice in it. If I remember at all, by The Lord of the Rings, I'd take it. I wouldn't mind the other being remembered, but I am conscious of the small and not very important. Won't it be rather like the case of Longfellow, won't it? People remember Longfellow wrote Hiawatha and perhaps one or two other things. They quite forget he was a professor of modern languages.